It's pretty difficult. I mean, where we compete at over there, it's all wetland, which is why we do it in the swamp over here to mimic it. And it's it's pretty rough, man. My first year I did it, I finished it. You'll see a lot of guys quit or get injured and have to drop. Uh, I pushed through with literal trench foot for the last 48 hours. My boots were rubbing my feet through my socks so much, and I couldn't put bandages on because they kept falling off because of all the water. So for 40, almost it was like 42 hours, I pretty much had trench foot. Every knuckle on my feet, on top of my feet, was busted open for that amount of time, and it ended up wearing down to bare flesh and was pussing green by the time I got done.
Welcome to How I Embraced the Suck, a podcast where you get to hear from veterans what life in the military is really like. I am your host, Walt, and before we start, you should know that I do not censor the show in any way. You have been warned. Yeah, well, awesome. Yeah, I heard your episode with Pat, and I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty neat. Like, I was just impressed, listening to what you're doing and everything. I like is that you run that, or I wasn't quite sure. You're involved?
So it's me and my buddy. My buddy from the Army owns it,
Okay.
but I'm the head instructor for it.
Gotcha.
So he kind of creates the curriculum with me. But he's the one that will actually put it on the computer and write it out, whereas I'll just feed ideas to him. And he'll fine-tune it. And
Sure.
we'll come out with a curriculum, start a new course, and I'm the one that teaches it. He'll co-teach with me. And but I'm probably going to branch out and do something on my own here soon.
Okay.
I got buddies all across the country like Pat, and they all want to host classes with me. So I'm not sure whether it's going to be a future conflicts thing every time yet, or whether it's going to be like a future conflicts thing, some courses, and then Ghost Element thing, some other courses.
Sure.
So
that'd be cool.
But yeah. We'll
Awesome.
see. Depends on the type of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, cool. Let's get into it. Today we've got Ghost Element, or let's just say Ghost. Sounds pretty cool. Former Army, correct?
Current Army.
Oh, current Army.
Well, current nasty girl, current Army National Guard.
There we go. Okay, yeah. All right, that's right. Cool. Yeah, I've forgotten that. That's a feature on the show. You'll find that the guest keeps me in line. So cool. Yeah. Why don't you give the listener just kind of some background, and me, obviously, I could obviously use it myself. Just kind of what got you into the Army, and kind of your experience, your time in a little bit.
Okay. Well, I came into the Army in 2014. Kind of, I don't know. Before that, I grew up in the woods, mostly in West Virginia, and kind of moved to a city not in West Virginia, and got into street racing around my late teens, and grew up doing that, and had a lot of fun doing that, which led me into being a mechanic, and did that for years, and mostly like performance shops and fabrication shops. And then I went to the Army, and and I was doing a fugitive recovery for a bail bondsman that was a cousin of mine, and mostly sitting on houses and stuff. But we'd hit a house if we knew the suspect was in there that we were after, jumping bond on us, and those are always fun. But it's more sitting than anything, and got tired of that after a year or so, and kind of went to the Army. I wanted to learn some stuff that you couldn't learn anywhere else. I wanted to kind of find a brotherhood in a way. Just wanted to do cool stuff, really. So as soon as I went in, there was a unit I already wanted to go to. And I don't know if anybody's familiar with National Guard, like the difference between like National Guard and active Army. National Guard, as long as it's not, well, really, I've seen some instances that go against us, but as long as it's not too far out of your home record, like distance-wise, you can kind of choose whatever unit you want.
Sure.
And I've even heard of like other states taking guys from states that aren't theirs, that they don't live in. Like we used to have a guy where I'm at that would travel 2 states away, to report in. But my first unit I went to was a U.S. Army long range surveillance unit. I don't know if you know anything about long range surveillance units, but at the time it was kind of like a Quasimodo relationship that the unit had with the state and the federal government. Like they technically fell under SOCOM, but they also fell under state rule as well. So it's like a weird relationship. So it's like better funding and whatnot, better training, but still kind of under state control as far as like deployments and stuff go. So I was with them for a while until middle of 2015, end of 2015 when they disbanded, and they were disbanding all the LURS units across the board. The Army was active duty and both guard wise. So, went from there and decided, hey, I want to stay in the reconnaissance world, and went to a Army scout / sniper platoon. Still 11 Bravo, still infantryman. But kind of the last reconnaissance asset standing that the Army has outside of electronic reconnaissance. So that's kind of where I live at today still. That's what I call home. I got a good group of guys, and that's really what keeps me there. It ain't the Army. It ain't a paycheck. It ain't anything else. It's those guys. That's where I'm at.
The genuine brotherhood.
Yeah. And then outside of that, I also teach for Future Conflicts, one of my buddies' companies. So we teach tactical training and stuff like that. So that's kind of a rough rundown. That's the short and quick of it.
Yeah. Why the was it just a change in policy to get rid of the what was the exact name? Long range patrol?
Long range reconnaissance.
Reconnaissance, yeah.
Long range.
I'm thinking long range desert group, but
long range reconnaissance, long range surveillance, LERPs, LURS, many names. We used to get a lot of our lineage from the Vietnam era LERPs. That's kind of where they came from, where LURS came from.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. There's talks about it for a while, and if you look historically, after every major conflict that the military has, they kind of stand down their smaller elements, like reconnaissance elements. They kind of get rid of them, and they're like, oh, we don't need these anymore. We're not important anymore after they invested millions of dollars in training in us and equipment and tons of knowledge and whatnot. So they just get rid of us every single time. If say we went to war with another country tomorrow and it was a massive war, we'd stand right back up again, I think, even with the use of drones right now, especially if it was a peer-to-peer fight, they'd have to stand reconnaissance units back up, so it happens every conflict, but it sucks because you get guys that have been doing that stuff for years and have been to so many schools and trained with so many other countries and built those relationships and gotten that knowledge and are spreading it over here. And all of a sudden they decide they don't want to work for the Army anymore, all because they were kicked out of their unit or disbanded rather, so it's like, the Army creates a lot of bad relationships when they do stuff like that.
Yeah. So did a lot of the guys, like you say, did they quit, or did a lot of them, like you, just kind of shift? What did you notice, at least in your experience,
So out of maybe, I don't know, 80 people in that LURS company, I'd say about 30 of them went to the light infantry line unit that I'm attached to.
Okay.
I'm with a light infantry battalion now, but I am the reconnaissance and sniper asset for that battalion. So we have 4 companies. We have Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta, and they're all light infantry except for Delta. Delta's mounted heavy weapons, right? So a lot of them went to one of our companies that's just a light infantry company. And they enjoyed that for a while. And, now I think there's only 2 of those guys left in the line companies. And there's 2 of us left at my current section. The rest either got out, went MI, or a handful of them went to SF for the Guard SF units for 19th and 20th group.
Sure.
And most of the guys that went, I think you actually made it. Some of them went to two or three of them went to our SOD unit, our Special Operations Detachment unit, which is
Mm-hmm.
like a support unit for an SF team. We have one here, and they went to them, and some of them, I think one of them's still there. The other two got out now, years later, and there's only one other guy with me at my current unit, and the rest have gotten out. It was kind of hard to find homes for people, but especially if you had any kind of rank at that
Mm-hmm.
time. But luckily, I didn't at the time, so I was able to find a home, and yeah, I don't know. It was hard to find a home where I went to. If you were E5 or higher at the time, it was real hard. The Army would extend your slot with them. They'd allow whatever unit you're going to plus up on a slot for
Mm-hmm.
anyone coming from their unit in order to give them home for the next year, so they can find a permanent home, or find out that they can stay at that unit that they go to, or whatever
Sure.
deal might be. But after that year was up, they started saying, hey, either find a unit, find a home, or get out. And that's kind of what happened. So we got a handful of us to the scout sniper section at first for the first year, but after that, they were like, all right, I'm out. I did my year, my contract's ending, whatever, I'm getting out. Or I think they were even given the option, if you didn't want to stay in the Army after they disbanded, you can just get out. So we had a
Okay.
couple guys do that too. But yeah, it sucks. It's a lot of knowledge lost. And now what we're seeing is, we're going into more of a peer-to-peer fight in the future, possibly. Meaning China, for example.
Sure. Sure.
That type of deal. And, they're going to spin back up reconnaissance units like ours, like where I came from. The drones aren't going to be able to fly in the air as easily anymore, because
Right.
these other countries have air assets. So, it's bound to happen if something pops off. So,
Sure.
but
Sure.
it's gonna be too late. It takes years to train these type of guys. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
a little behind the power curve.
yeah, and you see it all the time, like in the Middle Eastern conflict. You see like different SF groups that are overused for missions that they shouldn't be used for, or things like that. And it's gonna be another one of those things, like Operation Red Wings, for example, and that whole SEAL reconnaissance mission before it went south with Marcus Luttrell and all them.
Mm-hmm.
That was a reconnaissance mission that was passed up by different Army reconnaissance units, and they said no, we're not doing it, because they knew they're gonna have comms issues and this and that and supply
Sure.
issues. And the SEALs put together a hodgepodge team of different guys from different teams and went out there and got hurt. It sucks,
Yeah.
but that's what happens, and that's kind of what we saw in the SF community too. Certain guys are getting hurt doing missions that they didn't have to be doing. They were getting overused, so it's kind of, if they don't stand back up units that are meant for that mission, it's going to keep happening. At least in my belief.
Yeah. Huh. What? Yeah. What's kind of some of the differences between National Guard and regular Army in your experience?
Cool, man. So
I
I'd say the
go ahead.
the biggest difference, I think, is leadership within, like, from the captain level down. Anyone higher net is usually very political, but usually your company commanders are captains, and then you got your platoon leaders that are lieutenants, and they can be good or bad. They might be new, they might be experienced. You don't know until you get them.
Right.
But the leadership's very different. So from my time on like active duty basis for training, or training with active duty units, whatever the deal might be, active duty leadership, they're not really questioned. And when they are questioned, they do not like it.
Okay.
Guard units tend to get guys who have more civilian experience with civilian jobs and how to lead people in those jobs, or how to be led, rather, right? Because in order to be a leader, you need to be a good follower at the same time, right? You need to know how to follow in order to lead. So we tend to get the more experienced people, whether they're coming off of active duty or whether they just have a civilian experience. We tend to get leadership that doesn't mind being questioned, doesn't mind taking ideas from lower enlisted, doesn't mind understanding, hey, my NCO's in charge, I'm not. You know what I mean? It's
Sure.
it's pretty good. And then when we do get bad leaders, like we don't get them very often where we're at because they got to go through kind of an interview process to get to us,
Mm-hmm.
and usually they're coming from a line unit, but they've been at for a year or two, and then they come to us.
Sure.
But when we do get a bad leader, uh, if he's making bad decisions or treating guys like shit or not working for the guys, there's gonna be a talk out in the parking lot. And it's happened before.
Right. You've got
So,
more flexibility there.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
we don't have to wake up and see you for the next month every single day, and but that's very few and far between. But it has happened. And on the active duty side, you would have got probably thrown in the freaking brig for that. But on the guard side, it's kind of like, what's the point in telling? Because obviously I mouthed off to an NCO. The NCO has been there for 5 or 6 years, and the company commander's probably going to take his side.
Right.
So it's hit or miss at certain units. I've seen some guard units that are very by the book and very active duty ish, but at least mine's not, and I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no kidding. Huh? Yeah, it kind of feels. My impression is a little more like a volunteer company or something. Like I'm thinking like Civil War or something, where a town creates their own unit and they vote on their leader, and then they go off to war. And it's like, well, we know when we go home, you're going to be buying grain for me. I have a real job at home, kind of thing. So, or a life outside of this. Kind of interesting. The difference between the career mindset and the kind of more volunteer mindset.
Yeah, and which kind of like what I was explaining, kind of the reverse thing happens sometimes too. You'll get a new lieutenant, and he'll get power for those 3 or 4 days a month, and he just abuses that power because he works at Costco during the day, right? So there's other there's cases that are different too, and but yeah, most time it's a little more laid back, I think. But then you get they advertise the whole 2 weeks a year, 1 weekend a month type deal. But when I was at long range surveillance, and especially where I'm at now with the scout and sniper section, that's not the deal. I travel nonstop. I'm out gone a lot. I've had I had the same civilian employer for 8 years up until recently, and they became pretty pissed off at me towards the end because of how often I was gone. We travel a lot. We have state partnership programs. So like one of ours is in Eastern Europe on the Russian border. So we spend a lot of time over there training with those guys and training, just cross training, and really just kind of, I guess, keeping a presence there, in case something, they feel safer in case something were to pop off. Hey, Americans are here. Russia's a little less likely to poke the bear.
Sure.
So it works out, but it keeps us busy a lot. I'm about to go away for another 3 weeks right now to go test the new weapon systems. We're getting the new XM5s and the SIG MCX basically, but in 6.8 with the new Vortex optic and OSS suppressor. I'm going to go test those and get feedback on those and our next generation night vision system. So we get random orders like those because most of us are SDM or sniper qualified. So they're like, hey, come on out and shoot. And there's going to be a detachment for range regiment out there shooting with us.
Okay.
And then we get orders I don't know, man, we can kind of go to most schools that we want. It's not really a problem to get schools. Whereas on active duty, it's kind of a problem. Or even at a regular guard unit, it can be a problem. But, I've been to multiple PSD schools, personal security, like evasive driving, close quarter shooting, kind of protecting a VIP type stuff, pit maneuver driving, car ramming, high speed driving, street line driving, all that good stuff. Multiple vehicle platforms. We go to those pretty regularly. We get stuff like SDM, mountain warfare, advanced mountain warfare, mountain riflemen. Man, we get all types of stuff. So it keeps you pretty busy.
I'm beginning to see why your previous employer was frustrated.
Yeah.
That's quite the list. That's amazing.
Yeah, he looked at me one day and he said, "Hey, out of the last 2 years, you've only been here something like 4 months or 5 months accumulatively."
Oh
I
wow.
was like, yeah, yeah. There ended up being some bad blood there, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna leave.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a bummer. That's a bummer. Huh.
Yeah, but
That's that's wild. That's so sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, but that's the big difference, man. Our retention rate at our platoon is something like 98% or 99% over the last couple of years, whereas our line units is like 60%. And if you look at active
Hmm.
duty, like most active duty infantry from the army is their retention rates probably even lower than that. Especially once you add
Sure.
in certain aspects that have been happening the last couple of years, it's pretty low. So we've been lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, how so okay, so do you think that's well, I guess both would contribute to it, but you were talking about just the brotherhood you have. Is that kind of an aspect, or do you think, like you were saying, the all the training that you have access to makes you feel more valued in your job? Do you think that contributes to it also, or one or the other?
I
Like
think it's
just
a
the high
mix.
retention rate.
It's a mix of both. I think the stronger side of it though is just kind of the brotherhood. You could take all that training away from us, and we're we're gonna we're still gonna be together, and we're still gonna enjoy it. We're the type of guy that
Sure.
when we see someone new walk in the room, like for example, when we got our last platoon leader, our last officer, we didn't even know who he was, and we were making fun of how skinny his jeans were and counting change in his pockets for an hour before we even knew who he was, and we were just laughing right there in his face. It's
Nice.
those are the type of guys that they are, and we end up having a great relationship with that platoon leader because he fit in like that. But
Sure.
our guys are just comical, man. They're very rebellious. They're the first ones to question any type of leadership, and but most of the guys have plenty of combat experience to back that up. So leadership tends to listen to us, and but we also stay very lighthearted and laugh at whenever
Yeah.
we can. When it's time to be
Sure.
serious, it's time to be serious. But any other time, you know, we're having fun. We got to enjoy it. So like
Yeah.
whether we're in uniform or not, we still spend time with each other.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that good.
It sounds kind of similar to what you imagine or what you hear about like special forces units, like regular army or regular military. Just the tightness, the camaraderie, the less formality, just a real being accustomed to one another and knowing where those boundaries are and where you can push them. You know.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's true.
Hmm.
And I mean, I could tell you, any guy that I serve with, you put them 100 yards away from me at nighttime with a little bit of moonlight, and I can tell you who that is just based on how they walk.
Oh yeah. Oh that yeah.
That's we're just, I'm sure other people can speak on that too that are closer to their guys. We know each other very well, and I mean, don't get me wrong, we still fight each other. It's nothing to have a fist fight, but
Right.
the second there's a common enemy, we're all pulled together. It's literally just how me and my actual brother, that's how we are too.
Oh
We'll be
yeah.
fist fighting each other, and next thing you know, someone says something, and we're both fighting them. It's how me and the guys are.
Yeah. I get to beat up on him, not you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. That's yeah, my brother and I we get in disagreements and whatnot and yeah, working together or something. But
Yeah,
a common enemy unites us.
exactly, exactly. It's always funny when
Yeah.
that happens.
Yeah. Yeah. What's one question I like to ask is if a kid was to say, "Hey, I want to join the military," what would your advice be to them?
In 2022, just flat out don't. Um, Unless you support the current political climate going on, don't join.
Mm, sure.
Because the it's getting rougher leadership wise. It's getting harder to find good leadership in other places, um, especially on the active duty side. So you got to be very wary of that. You're gonna basically be told what to do by people who don't follow maybe your political spectrum, and now they're going to make you sit through a extremist brief about right wing political extremists, but they're not going to say anything about left wing political extremists really.
Sure.
So it's I don't know, man. You gotta look at it at a deeper value. I mean, the benefits don't outweigh the bad. The benefits really aren't that amazing, and you gotta be careful. If you could come right into a unit like mine and work with guys like us, if you have that option, if it's possible, sure, but uh, I'd say 75% of you are going to find out that you don't like it. So you gotta be careful, and you gotta make sure you're vaxxed now, right? So that's a whole nother thing. I'll tell you right now, majority of the military found loopholes and ways to get around it.
Oh, sure.
More than what is being advertised, but they're gonna want to see record of it. So I mean, if you can show that, great. But if not, don't go get it just for that. It's not worth it.
Sure.
It's not. I don't know. It's not worth you questioning whether you're going to enjoy it a year later or not and be miserable. There's plenty of if you're going just for the training and stuff. There's plenty of schools like the one I teach at, or Grantham and Travis Taylor coming out with a school now. You got Orion Concepts. You got multiple patrolling schools out there. Go get training. Just fund it yourself. It's really not that expensive, and learn those skills. You don't have to go in the Army or the military to learn them anymore.
Sure. Yeah. And it seems that it's becoming more, it's simultaneously becoming less acceptable and more acceptable. I should say it's becoming less publicly acceptable, but more commonly available to get that kind of training.
Yeah. I think a lot of these instructors in these schools are, they're kind of thinking the same thing that we're thinking over here at Future Conflicts. And they're thinking, hey, political climate's pretty bad right now, and things could get rougher, and probably are going to get rougher. So let's get the training out there that we can and actually help some people and spread some knowledge. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So
sure.
I think more people are, I think there's a want from the civilian population for more stuff like that, like patrolling and tactics courses, than there used to be. So it's helping fuel that.
Sure. Yeah, it's you're getting people to pay money to go hiking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah. So yeah, that's a good thought. So what is Future Conflicts? What do you guys do? What's patrolling for the civilian?
Oh,
aside from hiking with a rifle.
We do a lot of force on force training in our patrolling class. You get live fire, you get force on force stuff as well with blanks. We go over multiple things in our patrolling course. It's basically a weekend long. We're probably about to add a day onto it though. There's just so much knowledge, and when you come to our course, you're drinking from a fire hose as far as knowledge goes. But we want you to be able to retain it as best as you can. So
Sure.
we're not out there yelling at you, screaming at you like you see at other patrolling schools. You're going to be eating steak at nighttime for dinner. You're going to be able to, have a drink or two at nighttime around the fire if we're not running nighttime stuff. And you're going to be comfortable, and you're being in a team environment with dudes who think just like you and act just like you. Mm-hmm. So while getting all the knowledge thrown on you that you can possibly handle, and just doing fun stuff like patrolling and fighting and small unit tactics, we teach it from a kind of a small reconnaissance team point of view. Our reconnaissance teams work in 5 to 6 man teams. Mm-hmm. So we teach it in 5 to 6 man teams.
Okay, sure.
We think it's more applicable to the civilians that, hey, you might only have 3 or 4 friends or 5 friends that are available. So let's teach it to you this way. That way you can incorporate it this way and teach it to your buddies this way. Most other patrolling schools teach it from like the platoon level, at least at minimum the squad level, which is like 12 to 15 people.
Mm-hmm.
The rest teach it from like a platoon or a company level. And I just don't see that being realistic for a civilian.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially because if you're trying to learn individual skills, having more people enables you to transfer responsibility.
Yeah.
If you're patrolling with, I don't know what, I can never remember a platoon size, whatever, 20 guys or something, only one guy can walk point. If that's a skill you're trying to learn, then you're going to have to go, 20 trips with every different person as point. So
Yep.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It's, we teach medical in pretty much every single one of our courses to some aspect. Our students found that during this past patrolling class, they had one of our Army medics that came in, who's an EMT on the civilian side, but Army medic in the Army. And she gave I think a 3.5 hour medical class that included putting an NPA up someone's nose, letting students play with chest seals and Israeli bandages. And, we don't keep everything in packages. We have stuff that you can actually touch and feel and see how it's deployed.
Sure.
We have multiple stress shoots during that class too in the beginning that involve applying a tourniquet, and it's got to be applied the proper way. She's going to be there checking it. And, it's really a good time, as you probably heard on the other podcast. So, but we teach everything from, we got basic bushcraft, intermediate bushcraft, patrolling. We got land navigation, both basic and advanced. We have a tactical bushcraft class and a reconnaissance class. So the tactical bushcraft and a reconnaissance class both are kind of our like higher echelon courses. They're multiple day courses. They both have actual escape and evasions in them, where you're wearing a GPS tracker and you're living off land, escaping and on the run. We're hunting you. Luckily we got enough property to do that one. So
yeah.
And there's courses like you're expected to know how to survive at that point and be in shape. So like our reconnaissance course is going to have a yet to be determined lengthwise run in the beginning of it in order to start the class.
Oh yeah, sure.
Somewhere between like a 4 and 5 mile run.
Yep.
With the instructors, and we'll run set pace with you. And that's just to make sure, hey, you're not going to pass the hell out when you're running from us. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
right.
But those are
you don't need
much
that
higher
liability.
Classes. No, not at all. Our insurance only likes us so much already. So
right.
But all the classes are great. I mean, we got families coming out to the basic bushcraft class, father, sons, daughters. That's a really family friendly class. It's only 1 day long, and it can be pretty much taught around a campfire.
Okay.
You learn all the basic bushcraft stuff that you should learn. The intermediate bumps it up a little bit, and then tactical is kind of like hey, you're on a run, you have to survive and create your own tools and do this, do that. It's got a pretty interesting curriculum. So we're kind of like trying to bring the bushcraft community to the tactical community, if that makes any sense.
Oh, sure. Yeah. There's the people that like guns, and there's people that like water filtration, and you're trying to meld the two.
Yeah, we like most courses. Yeah, most people teach like don't leave no trace from like a environmental perspective, and we teach it from a hey, you don't want to be discovered or tracked perspective. So
right. No, yeah. and that's exactly your skill set is, you're as reconnaissance, you're out where you don't have any support. You're moving, you're looking around, and if you get found, it's going to be a problem. You're not set up necessarily for a huge firefight, so you're trying to avoid detection as opposed to attracting it.
If we're taking contact, it better be initiated by us. We like it that way better. We don't want to fight a fight we're not equipped to fight and or supplied to fight, and we're a small team, so we try to attack only when we want to. But
yeah. So tourniquets, where do you stand on the rat tourniquet?
No.
This is important.
No. Don't do it.
Yeah. I have very vague familiarity with them, but yeah, I think my impression is, and I realize this is the opposite of what I just asked you for your impression, but I'll say it anyways. My impression is kind of that if you have nothing else and you're going to die, you can do it. But other than that, don't.
I agree.
But,
I agree.
okay.
Yeah,
Oh, so, good. We can continue the podcast.
and make sure you're buying a quality tourniquet. Don't go to Amazon. Go to North American Research.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You know, don't buy something cheap and then regret it.
Yeah.
That's my PSA for the audience.
Yeah, it is. I mean, not just in the tactical world, but it's not uncommon for sometimes the most critical pieces of equipment to have for people to spend the least amount of money on them. You know, where this is literally like a tourniquet. I mean, if you're using a tourniquet, it's because you're going to die. So $100 actually isn't too expensive at that point. And it's not even that much. Yeah, but people will save $10 and be like, "Oh boy, I'm so glad I saved that $10." I'm like, well, yeah, you might die because of it, or you may never have to use the tourniquet, and cool, you saved $10. But what's the use case?
Yeah, and make sure you're attaching it to your kit properly too. I don't know how many pictures I've seen of dead Russians recently where it's zip tied to their chest rig or body armor, right. And they died trying to get it off.
It's sad, obviously, but it's hilarious. It's like, well, I mean, this is literally your fault. Yeah. I mean, what can I say?
It's crazy. Yeah.
So as a sniper, what's your position on the age old question? 22 long rifle or 17 HMR?
Man, I grew up with 22 long rifle, but I'm a 17 HMR guy.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's just better.
The ultimate caliber question.
Yeah. I thought you were gonna hit me with the old 9mm versus 45 question. I was gonna be like,
oh,
really?
Right. No, try to come at him from the side. A little surprise attack.
Yeah.
No FUDs here.
Hey man, I can appreciate a nice 1911, but I don't know. It's got a good bit of drop, and I like my 40-yard 9mm shots.
Yep. I years ago I saw a poster. It was like a target with a bunch of misses, and some were big holes and some were little holes, and it said 9mm versus 45. Can you hit the target? Or it's who practices the most or something, or it's all about shot placement, something like that. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. Like you can't miss with a big enough caliber to win. So
it's true. And really, I mean, if you're under stress, you'd rather have that pack capacity. I promise you. So if you're under stress, you might pull a couple more rounds than you're used to. So
sure, yeah.
That carrying a couple extra rounds, like a 9mm, probably a little more helpful.
Yeah,
especially with the type of rounds you can get now, right?
Oh yeah. There's some amazing stuff out there. The market is, the less restricted the market is, the more cool options you're gonna find.
Yes. The market currently is either about to get real restrictive or get real loose.
Yeah, or both.
Or both.
It's yeah. Who knows?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
One thing I like to ask, more formal question, I guess. What's something you know now that you wish you knew before you got in?
God. Wish I knew. God, I don't know, man. There's so many things. I kind of wish I knew what the future would have held for me in the military. I didn't take it very seriously at first, but I was quickly thrown into leadership positions based off my life experience level and my civilian experience. I wasn't a dumb private. I was a very life experienced private. So I was kind of pushing to being in charge of other privates and E4s when I was an E4 or a private, which was nice. But I wish I would have known the level of bad leadership I would have experienced or was going to experience. I think,
Okay.
but I mean, I feel like everybody probably imagines that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know really, man. There's a lot, I guess. I wish I would have known how much the recruiter was going to try and screw me or did screw me. So,
It yeah, that's a common. I've heard people that had the exact opposite experience, but it seems that the majority of people don't have fond feelings toward their recruiter.
yeah, my initial recruiter, he was very like, you're going to call me staff sergeant, and I'm like, dude, I'm not even in the military. Shut up.
Right.
Needless to say, I met him one time.
Right.
And
Like, you got anybody else in this office I can talk to?
God, man, all I can say is do your own research, man. Just don't be afraid to talk to multiple people.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it really applies to all of life, but yeah, for especially for something as specialized or maybe as small of a community as the military, um and somewhat insulated. You know, like the average civilian doesn't really have a great idea of what it's like to be in the military. That's partly the point of this whole podcast, is to give folks insight into that. So if you're trying to join that community, why not ask people their opinion? Multiple people, you know, get some feedback and not just go off of the latest film or something.
Yeah, films 90% of times get it wrong. It's insanely frustrating. It's to the point to where most of us don't like watching any kind of military movie or TV show.
Sure. Yeah.
It's pretty bad. We were talking about it earlier. There are certain shows that do an okay job, but most of the movies just kind of do it wrong.
Sure. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, they mess up uniforms, they mess up behaviors. Uh, it's just they mess up patches, and it's like, come on, man, you guys see enough of this where you should be able to get it right. All you
Right.
got to do is hire a former military guy, and he could probably get everything right for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I I watched the new Top Gun Maverick with a group of friends, and one of them was former Marines, and he's like the most unrealistic part of that movie was when the gate guard let him ride on post without a helmet, ride a motorcycle on post without a helmet, you know. And it's the details like that are just, people say, are the most irksome.
Yeah, it's all the little things, man.
Yeah, there's no way a corporal could have all those awards or something, or just whatever, you know.
Yep.
But
what's this private doing, marching around with a rack on his chest? What happened?
Right. Yeah. You had mentioned something earlier about in the email about competitions that you've been involved in. What's that kind of like?
So there's I do army shooting competitions, but also do military reconnaissance competitions.
Okay.
So I think you're talking about the reconnaissance competitions, right?
I think that's what you said. You know.
Okay. So
I just looked at it, and that is what you said.
Yeah. I should probably pull that up to reference it. We hold a kind of like a state competition here.
Okay.
In some swamps, and it's pretty good competition. Your feet are wet 24/7 due to the swamps, and you're on the run. You got a GPS tracker on you. You're on a 4-man team, and we usually send 1 or 2 teams from the reconnaissance section, and then the light infantry platoons and companies, they send their own teams. Usually you get a couple teams from them, 4-man teams. This year we won. We've won in prior years. We won last year, and I think we won the year before. But this has only been going on since 2018. We didn't have one in 2020.
Okay, sure.
So 2019, 2021, and this year we did pretty good. you're just planning on having absolute blisters everywhere, bare spots everywhere. You're wearing a ruck, but you got bare minimum. There's a packing list you got to take, and it's meant to put weight on your back, but actually applies to some of your tasks. Anything extra you carry is on you, including your food and water.
Okay.
Usually they last anywhere from 48 hours to 72 hours, usually towards 72 hours. You are given time hacks with checkpoints. Like, hey, this is your amount of time you have to make it to this checkpoint. It's like 10 clicks away or 8 clicks away or 15 clicks away.
Sure.
You have an hour or 2 hours, whatever it might be. And you're moving through swampland where we're at. And once you get to that checkpoint, as long as you make your time window, you got a 10-minute time window to make that in. As long as you make that time window, you're given your next checkpoint grid, so you know where to go next.
Sure.
Because you don't have any of them until you get to that one. That's when you get your next one. But when you get there, you're given like a 5-minute, basically like a 5-minute downtime, or however early you came in. Whether you came in like the beginning of those 10 minutes, you get that as downtime too to relax. Because most time if you're not good, you're gonna be coming in there huffing and puffing and breathing heavy because you just ran a mile to get there on time. So
right,
like a lot of teams do. But you have a task at that checkpoint at every checkpoint. So like a task might be, hey, start a fire, or it might be, hey, here's a bunch of foreign vehicles, name them all, or here's a foreign person. What's this guy's name and what's his position in this country? Or in a different country. It could be anything like that. It could be an obstacle course, could be a medical course, could be a shooting course, could be absolutely anything.
Sure, sure.
And you run nonstop. It doesn't stop at any point. You're not allowed to accept help at any point. There's Op 4 teams hunting you, multiple Op 4 teams hunting you.
Wow.
And you're given kill cards. So like each kill card's worth a certain amount of points. You only get like 10 per teammate.
Mm-hmm.
And you can kind of barter. Like we found that sometimes you can barter with Op 4. Like say they're watching a road junction or like a field section that you absolutely have to cross through in order to make your time hack. It's worth giving up maybe a kill card just so you make your time window. And because if you don't make your time window, you can't complete that checkpoint. Therefore, you don't get points for it, and they're worth more. So
gotcha.
It's a little gaming to game, things like that. But we usually carry a pair of night vision with us or a little handheld thermal device that my buddy has, and we can usually spot most Op 4 teams out in the distance. And
sure,
you're allowed to ambush them as well. So as long as you're your same strength level as them, or you get the jump on them, because usually there's a cadre member walking around with them.
Right.
You can actually win that battle, like theoretically, and he'll call them dead instead of you, so you can just move through. Which we've done that a couple of times this year. We were the only team to do that, which is pretty funny. We had multiple heat cats this year. People was passing out cold on the other teams.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we had a competition in the bag pretty much before the first night because we were so far ahead in points just making the time hacks.
Sure.
We could have quit at that point and won the event for just 3 days. It was pretty interesting.
Nice.
But the last team ended up dropping. We were the last one standing, and we were so far ahead in points that we basically killed all morale, I think, on the other teams. And the last team ended up quitting at like 4 a.m. on the second to last day.
Wow,
and
that's tough.
We heard them quit over the radio, and I was like, oh my God, I've never wanted to hear that so bad because it was so hot. It was hot as hell this year.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, we usually do this in like April, and this year it was in June.
Oh man! Oh wow!
So it was a rough one. Usually it's like 60 degrees. This year was like 105.
Wow, that'd be tough.
Yeah.
So at night, are you sleeping, or you're staying awake the whole time?
No,
or you take turns sleeping?
Nope, we're on the move the entire time. We're pretty good at route planning.
Okay.
And so we usually make it into a checkpoint like within 500 meters of that checkpoint pretty early, like an hour or two early.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we'll come in before the two teams in front of us will make it there.
Sure.
We'll be there before them, just hanging out on the outskirts, not getting discovered, and we'll see them come beating feet through, hauling to the checkpoint. So like when we do that, when we make the time hacks real early, we'll like kind of hide out and take a nap if we can.
Sure.
But this year was not the case. We had different people running it this year, and they didn't know what the time hacks should have been for each movement. So it was like really short. So we were
Mm,
basically just having to break ourselves off for every single movement for the first 24 hours.
gotcha.
And we knew we weren't going to be able to carry that pace on for 72 hours. But we're like, hey, if we can just crush it now, maybe the other teams will drop. Because before the first checkpoint, one of them had already lost a guy due to a heat cat. And you're allowed to
Oh
drop one
man.
guy. You can continue with 3, but if you drop more than
Okay.
that, you're done. Um, so we're like, all right, well, they're probably not going to make it. And the other team's looking rough before the first checkpoint. And I know we're feeling rough because of the heat. So, dude, boys, we're 3 hours into this, and it's going to be a rough one. So we just kind of like really just broke them off. Just made sure we hit every checkpoint and just ran the whole entire way. Just about. I went
Wow.
black on. Well, I ran out of water multiple times, and yeah, it was a good time. And then there's international ones we go to that are in our state partnership country,
Mm,
and we do them there. It's pretty much the same deal. It's just you're instead like we're using the only American team,
mm-hmm.
so we send two teams, one of just Americans, and then we send two Americans from our unit to compete with 2 foreigners
Okay.
on
Sure.
a like international team, and so we get there and it's like the Polish, the Latvians, the Lithuanians, Germany, Sweden, Norway, all of them.
Hmm.
They'll all send teams. The Polish, and we'll compete against them for 72 hours.
Okay. So kind of the Olympics of reconnaissance. That's
Yep,
cool. That
it's
is
funny,
pretty
man.
cool.
It's funny because we're America. They're everyone's after us, op four wise.
Right.
So
Right. I'm sure.
it's a good time. It's hilarious, man.
So do you provide any guys for the Op 4, or is it all just the host country
No,
typically?
usually it's just a host country, but we
Okay.
we will provide guys that have competed before. They're allowed to go and be cadre for the task for the checkpoints.
Oh,
So
sure. Okay.
they call them like umpires. So
Hmm.
they're allowed to go and they'll pay for like 4 or 5 of us to come over as just umpires and to run certain checkpoints, which is nice
Sure.
because most of the time, whatever nation is running that checkpoint, it's like broken English or they exaggerate their accent to where it's kind of hard for us to understand. And it's like, come on, boys, come on. I know you're doing
Right.
this.
Right. And
Yeah,
then the French, they're not the French. Then the say the Swiss run up and they speak perfect English to them, and you're like, wait,
yeah,
what's up?
yeah, exactly. And the checkpoints there, uh, they're not too far. Like our reconnaissance competition was created based off of theirs, right?
Okay.
We have guys
Sure.
that have went multiple times. I've been a few times, and I'm going again next year. And we created it because we enjoy their competition so much. We wanted something back at home, but we wanted something that they could come over and compete in here in the future, and we
Mm,
wanted something that our own guys could compete in for pride and in order to earn that spot to go over there. You know what I mean?
sure. Sure. But it's similar enough that there's some continuity between the two.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. But
Hmm.
I will say, man, some of their checkpoints, like one of them, they usually have like this one checkpoint where it's like a poncho laid out, but it's a bunch of weapons parts thrown together, and it's stuff that we don't really have over here. Like they'll have like a grease gun, a Sten gun, Glock, a AK, a M4, like a Remington 870, and then like a AK4, which is like another version of the G3. They'll have FAL. They'll have like MG3 laid out there. They'll have all kinds of stuff. And it's just pieces just in a pile, and you get like 10 minutes to assemble everything. And it's
Wow.
great. We were one of 3 teams one year to get them all assembled. And I was like, man,
Seriously.
I've never touched a Sten gun, and I was the one to figure it out. I was like, well,
Right.
I should note I used to build AKs for a living
Oh,
back
okay.
when I lived in a different state. So that kind of helped. At least I knew certain firearms. It sped things up at
Sure.
least. So we had time to figure that one out.
Sure.
So yeah, it's I don't know. It's fun. It's a great time.
Do you know what the tasks are ahead of time, or you arrive at the checkpoint and you're assigned your task?
Yeah, you just arrive at a checkpoint.
Oh,
You arrive at
okay.
a checkpoint. You're assigned your task. You do your task, and then before you leave that checkpoint, they give you your next grid, your next location you got to go to. So you don't even know how far you're about to walk or on what time limit until you leave that checkpoint.
Oh, so for example, you could show up, they give you an obstacle course, and you push hard to get through the obstacle course and do it well, and then now you've got 12 clicks to go in, I don't know, an hour, not whatever time frame would be difficult.
Yeah. Oh
You're
yeah.
just burnt out. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting, but that's the same for everybody.
Yeah. Same for
Okay.
everybody, and tasks are always the same for everybody at that checkpoint. I mean, it's pretty difficult. I mean, where we compete at over there, it's all wetland, which is why we do it in the swamp over here to mimic it. And
Sure.
it's it's pretty rough, man. My first year I did it, I finished it. You'll see a lot of guys quit or get injured and have to drop.
Mm,
Uh, I pushed through with literal trench foot for the last 48 hours.
wow.
My boots were rubbing my feet through my socks so much, and I couldn't put bandages on because they kept falling off because of all the water. So for 40, almost it was like 42 hours, I pretty much had trench foot. I had every knuckle on my feet, on top of my feet, was busted open for that amount of time, and it ended up wearing down to bare flesh and was pussing green by the time I got done.
Oh
Uh,
man.
I was in I've never felt pain like that. Um, it was it was rough. I was afraid to take my boots off at the end until I knew like I was back somewhere where I could wash my feet and get medical attention. I didn't want to take them off because I didn't want to have to put them back on
Right.
or whatever. So
Well, and as long as you don't know exactly how bad it is, you
yeah,
can handle it.
and I really didn't at that point, man. Like the last checkpoint was the finish line, and it was a 5K run with all your gear and your weapons, and we're carrying their weapons. Some of them get Galils with folding stocks, but we're
Okay.
carrying AK-4s that are as tall as me in length, and we're using them more as walking sticks, than we are for freaking weapons, and they're heavy as hell, and it's a 5K but with an obstacle course in it with like nets and all kinds of stuff in the middle of it. And dude, I had one of my guys I served at Lurse with. I was like, dude, you gotta tell me some funny stories or something right now to get my mind off my feet. Well, as we're jogging,
Right. Right.
and
Right.
I'm like, I'm in so much fucking pain. Like each step's just like like my nerves are just getting like a shot of pain.
Right.
I'm like, dude, this is horrible. It's like someone stabbing me over and over again. It was good time though, but yeah, at the end I didn't know it, but at the end I had one of the host nation medics check me out, and she was like, "You're going to the emergency room as soon as I pull my
Wow.
socks off."
Wow.
And I was like, "No, I'm not. I'm here for another 48 hours in this country." And she started off with yelling at me for drinking beer once she saw my feet. So by then I had my boots off, my socks off, and I was kind of like looking at me. She came over. Someone brought her over, and I was like, "I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Just give me some antibiotics, just triple antibiotics, and
Right.
whatever." And I'm sitting there drinking a beer at the end, and she's like, "You can't be drinking beer right now. It's gonna thin your blood, and this and that, and blah blah blah." I'm like, "Look, I'm done. I'm gonna enjoy this one beer.
Right.
I'm not going to your emergency center. I'm going home in 2 days. Take me to my hotel room and let me sit there for a day, and I'll come out." And I couldn't put my feet in closed shoes until literally before we were about to go get on the plane.
Wow.
Yeah, and even then they were very loose. And I came home and I think I was out of work for like a week, but uh, yeah, I didn't. I don't know. I mean, I never thought I would have had trench foot ever. Like, who gets that?
Yeah.
Who gets trench foot anymore? You know what
Right. Right.
I mean? so, it was interesting. When I saw the green pus coming out, like every knuckle on my foot, I was like, oh no, we're too far gone, boys.
Dude, that's wild.
Hmm.
Huh.
It's crazy, but it's a real good time. It's an adventure for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yeah, and that, I mean, it's kind of humorous because you were saying the whole your advice would be don't join, um, because of this and this very very real situations, and you found a little corner where um, it sounds like you have very little of those. You managed to avoid a lot of the problems, and it's um, it feels almost as if it's going against your advice, but it's still fun.
Yeah, that's 100% accurate, man. I mean, if you can find one of those little corners and escape to it, do it. But other than that, don't. I mean, it comes with I mean, a lot of these events and adventures have been self created by us finding them, and
Mm.
and kind of like networking. Like we used to train a lot with 19th group out of they were out of Eastern West Virginia, and we used to train
Okay.
with them on testing next generation technology for a company or organization. It was like a contractor for the government called Unique Mission Cell, and basically contractors allowed to bring out their kind of next generation technology and have us test it for these government entities, and we'll give our feedback, but we'll run missions with their equipment like
Mm.
jammers, different drone systems, man portable radar systems, different like secure networks and radios
Sure.
and stuff like that. And we'll run missions with it with 19th Group and get some training in while we're there. And it'll be like a week long day and night missions, and then just go drink all night afterwards. It's great. But we networked and made that happen because we went on a Army 5 miler, I think it was. No, it was an Army 10 miler, and met a U.S. Army captain who just happened to be in charge of some section at 19th Group. And he was like, "Hey, yeah, you guys should come out to this. You guys are a recon asset. We would great. We'd love to have you, and we could do training." And
Yeah.
like, "Hey, man, that's cool." And that worked out. So like a lot of these things, we find a way to make it happen, and we just know people or network. And if you could do that, awesome. But you gotta get everything you can out of it. But it also helps with being somewhere with command and leadership that trust you and will help you.
Mm.
Because ultimately your leadership's supposed to work for you, right?
Sure.
And that's the problem you find in most military units is that your leadership doesn't work for you; they work for themselves for their next promotion, and that's why leadership is so bad across the board. But if you can get somewhere where the leadership will at least listen to their guys under them, you're doing good. I mean, hell, I got a new company commander just recently, and he called me into his office because I was the one that everyone pointed to for, hey, if there's problems in a unit, go talk to him because he's probably seen them, knows about them, or knows the person involved with it,
Sure.
and he's probably gonna give you an honest answer. He doesn't sugarcoat anything. So he called me in, and I was like, I'll tell you if you want to know. Man, it worked out. Now
Right.
he trusts me for a lot of things, so it lets us get more leeway on training and making our own plans and detaching when we want to. He, to trust us more. So,
Sure.
not every leader's like that, but you can greatly influence from under them. And if you find you can't influence them and they won't listen and they're just being a general dickhead, uh, it's up to you guys to address that as a group.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do it by yourself because you'll stand out. But if you can get your group of guys together and you say, "Hey, this is gonna fucking stop here," and a command meeting or out back, one or
Right.
the other,
Yeah.
you got to make it happen. What's if you're gonna be treated like shit anyway? What's the loss?
Hmm.
If you're gonna be miserable anyway, might as well try and change it. But I mean, we're the same way. I mean, if I have a E4 or E3 or E2 or something under me, and he comes up with a better idea than me, hey, I'm open to hearing it.
Sure.
Uh, I want to hear your idea, and if it's good, we're gonna say it's your idea. I'm not gonna take ownership of it, right? It's your idea. You're the one explaining it, and you're the one that brought it up. So, it's I find that in order to create good leaders and to create, your lower enlisted that want to care about their job, like how to make them care about their job and want to be there, is to give them responsibility and give them that option to do things like that.
Mm.
Um, so it's you can't treat everyone like they're retarded, like conventional military does.
Sure.
Um, give guys some kind of responsibility and control over their decisions. You don't have to micromanage everybody. You
Hmm.
know, and that's kind of what the perks of like being where I'm at is both at long range surveillance and at the scout sniper section. There's a selection process to get to us. We hold our own selection, and you can be hired or fired at any time by your team leader. So
Right.
if you come in and it turns out you have to be micromanaged, you have to be managed in any way, you're gonna get fired right away.
Hmm.
So we select very specifically.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It does really seem in a lot of ways that you have the best of both worlds with that flexibility. Um. Yeah.
Yeah, I happen to find myself a home, and it's worked out for the last couple of years. Now, I mean, it always could change. Things could always change, but I think it's pretty all right for now.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Still,
What?
don't give them more than 1 year at a time. Never sign more than a 1 year contract, or at least in a guard. I don't know if you can, I don't think you can do that on the active duty side, but
Yeah, probably not.
on the guard side, you can just extend for a year. Never take the bonus. It's heavily taxed. Just give them a year, 1 year at a time.
Mm. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So, because I've heard if you're deployed, bonuses are not taxed. Is that correct?
Yep.
So if you're with the guard, because you do deploy sometimes, so like when you go
Yeah.
to that reconnaissance competition, is that considered? That's not considered a deployment, is it?
No, it's
Okay,
not considered a
gotcha.
combat zone. So,
Oh, okay.
yep. But yeah, we get offered the same deployments, and we can go on like, I guess what used to be tour of duty. It's a government website. We can go in there and find a duty position with a deploying unit from like another
Mm.
state or an active duty unit, and they'll say like, "Hey, I need 5 or 10 E4 and below 11 Bravos,
Mm-hmm.
or I need 1 or 2 E5 or E6 11 Bravos." You can jump on that deployment, do your paperwork, and jump on deployment with them and go. Right, so like we can take the
Okay.
same stuff, and still go. It's same everything, but as far as like like whole entire units deploying, it more so with the guard stuff. It depends on your state politics, really.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
which way they want to go with it.
Right. Right.
Like you see that like in Texas right now. Texas, has had a National Guard deployed on their border for a while now, but now they're getting trumped by federal officers that are letting people in through the gates that they've been guarding for the last year. But Texas will deploy to combat. You got other states like New York that probably won't, but surprisingly, New Jersey did, and they actually got in the first firefight in Mogadishu back in 2019, I think. They got in the first firefight in Mogadishu since 1993, essentially
For,
since Black Hawk Down, I
for a New
think.
Jersey Guard unit.
Yeah, it
Wow.
was one of their infantry units, but yeah, apparently their scout and sniper section started nailing guys with a 50 cal with a Barrett that were charging the gate in a vehicle with a vehicle IED.
Wow.
So, and they got in like a pretty intense firefight, from my understanding.
Wow. That's crazy.
So yeah, I mean, there's opportunities out there. Units do still deploy, some more than others, but state politics and state funding kind of has a way of getting in the way of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not familiar at all with National Guard in general, but it does seem that it's not as one big unit as the regular army is. It does have some state control over it, which your impression would be, no, it's all one great big unit. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's different. Leadership and your politics, vary by the state. So
Sure.
your units themselves and what you experience in those units also vary based off of those things. You could go to one state and find most of E4 and below are miserable, or really E6 and below are miserable, and you can go to one state and find out, hey, they love it. So
Right.
because they're actually getting that there's deployments, but also getting the training to back them up. So,
Sure.
whenever you're deciding to transfer states or something of that sort, it's always good to know someone there already. And that you can trust, that isn't a recruiter or isn't a readiness NCO that's just trying to get you for their numbers.
Sure.
It's always good to know someone there already.
Yeah.
So
go in with a little knowledge.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, we got both sides here. You got guys like me here that love it. Well, I don't know if I love it. I like it.
Sure.
I'm more so like the dudes I'm with, but but you'll go to one of our line units and you'll find an E4, E5 there. It's just miserable. It doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it is what you make it. On active duty, it's a little harder because you're tied to a location for a year or two at a time. Sometimes 3 years. but at least in the guard side, you can move around. You have the option to move around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that's my advice right there. If I was talking to someone looking to enlist, go guard, man. Find a good state.
Sure.
You know, you still go to basic training, you still go to AIT, it still has, you still has all pretty much, depending on your state, most states have most MOSs you can experience on active duty. Just do that. That way, if it is miserable and you don't like it, you don't have to do it every day.
Right. Right. Yeah. You get to go home to a more normal life.
Yeah. And, some states units some of them are shit hot. Some of them are great. Some of them are lazy. So you got to pick and choose.
Does it work? Is there a function to go from National Guard to regular Army? Is that easy, or is it?
Depending on your state leadership or your unit leadership, it is. So, I could drop a packet right now and go active duty if I wanted to. It's just simple as paperwork and a transfer. It could take anywhere from 2 or 3 months to get it all processed to a year. It all depends how quickly your leadership pushes it through. But I don't think there's one to go backwards the other way from active to guard. I think you just kind of got to wait on your contract to end. But
sure,
from guard to active duty, yeah, man, there's multiple ways, and there's even ways to go from like enlisted to officer. We got our own OCS programs, we got our own ROTC programs at the colleges. They tend to create the weaker officers, the more political indoctrinated officers. The ROTC programs do, because it's college,
Sure.
But the OCS programs, they're not easy. I teach at them at times. I'll go on orders to teach like land navigation to the students or run sticks lanes for them. They're still treated like shit. The OCS candidates are kind of treated to the same effect a private would be in basic training, so.
Sure.
I wouldn't say it's easy, but I wouldn't say it's exactly hard either. They're only getting it for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, for depending on when they're going through, but they might do this summer and do that next summer or whatever. But there's opportunities out there. My biggest thing is, I could have got out, but I want to affect change and create training opportunities, and you basically just change things for the better and make it how I want. And I can't do that from the outside. But also, if at any time I decide, hey, I need to burn this bitch down, it's better to do that from the inside. So
sure, yeah.
There's always that option,
Right.
So that's kind of where I'm at. But you got to be in the right spot. Right now, I'm enjoying my time, but in the next year or so, I'm gonna probably promote again, and I'm either going to take in charge of a section like mine, or I'm going to move up higher and take in charge of another unit, and at least another platoon. And I'll hate it because it won't be my group of guys, but maybe I can kind of make that the same deal,
Sure.
And show guys what it can be, not what it has to be,
Yeah, there is value in that. If you get a group of guys that are not enjoying their time, you have the opportunity to improve that for them.
Yep.
There's a lot of value there.
They guys want to train and want to be together,
Yeah. What's totally off the cuff? What's your favorite weapon system that you've handled?
Oh, God, man, probably the most used. It's probably our M110s. It's just versatile. They're set up right. You can engage quickly with them. They still have knockdown power. They're heavier than M4, but they're still semi-automatic. They're 308. They got a decent optic on it. They're still suppressed. It's generally a pretty good weapon system. it's the most used really, as far as not in our
Sure.
section, and a scout sniper section. Now we did just get our new version M110s that they're also giving to line units. I don't know
Mm.
if you've seen them yet or not, but it's the M110A1.
Okay.
So Knights Armament doesn't make these. HK makes them.
Oh,
So
okay.
so it's an HK M110A1 with a shorter OSS suppressor, and then the
Okay.
new Sig Sauer 1:6 optic. So it's got a 1:6 low power variable zoom optic on it. It's kind of like a DMR rifle, but it's what we're giving like our junior guys
Mm.
in the scout sniper section, and then the line units are getting them now like 1 or 2 per squad.
Okay.
And I was kind of surprised we got them as quick as we did. Like we got them faster than some active duty units got them.
Hmm.
We got them faster than what the SDM schoolhouse got
Really?
them. Yeah, which is interesting.
And the Marines will get them in about 40 years.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So
Now
what's Go
the
ahead.
Marines are doing some good shit that we're not doing though. They have a urban kind of like an urban version or urban part, maybe I don't know what it is, of their scout sniper section selection, like
Mm.
their sniper. I guess not scout sniper school.
Okay.
Uh, but it's an urban one, and it's basically like M110s in an urban setting from like 6 stories up, shooting from an elevated position, high angle position, and rapid engagement on targets with ranging those targets and then engaging
Mm.
them.
Sure.
And we actually had permission to go to that. Send a couple of guys to that. We got permission from the schoolhouse to go to that, and our own command, our higher command, our state level command, shot it down. All they needed is to cut us orders. We're using their weapon systems with their ammo,
Right.
for a week at their school, and our own command shot down after we went through all the, because usually Marines don't want Army at their schools, right?
Oh,
Like
sure.
usually there's we don't want you here type deal. But we talked to the cadre and talked to their leadership and their commander, and he was like, yeah, man, we'd love to have you out here. And it was our guys that shot it down. I was like, what the hell? This is stupid.
What a bummer. Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be wild. That'd
yeah,
be pretty cool. So like I mean, kind of like an American Sniper kind of situation where you're up high.
yeah,
Ish. I mean, to connect it back to an unrealistic movie.
yeah, yeah. The book was pretty good. The movie really downplayed on the book. I don't know if you ever
Yeah,
read the book.
yeah.
Yeah,
It does. I mean, and honestly, I mean that's kind of, it's difficult in film to be accurate to a book.
yeah,
But it does seem, especially with war, the war movies, a lot of the extra excitement is added at the cost of accuracy or maybe some of the deeper themes. But
yep, yep. But
yeah,
yeah, it was weird. I thought it was going to work the other way around, but it didn't. I thought we were going to be turned down immediately by the Marines, but
right.
they were quickly accepted.
Wild.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to, if the listener wants to hear more of you or keep track of you or whatever, where can they do that? What's the best way to do that?
So you can find me. My Instagram's a private page right now, but you can find me on there at Ghost with 2 underscores and then Element. So a lot of people mess up. They put one underscore in the middle. Can't find me, but 2 underscores in the middle. Ghost Element. You can find me at the Future Conflicts Instagram page, futureconflicts.com, and then Future Conflicts on YouTube.
Cool.
I also have I do have a public Instagram page. It's it's lost dot generation dot Appalachistan. So that's my kind of like public, my whatever page.
Nice.
I don't use it as much, but at least it's public and you can just follow it instead of having to wait on me to check my request list
and approve it.
Make it. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Well, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Any last thoughts or or anything? I mean, I'm in no rush. I'm on your schedule, so if you want to keep
Shit,
going, or
man, I could talk all night. Whatever you want to do, man. I mean, hey, look at this. I have that much bourbon left.
oh, oh my gosh,
And
your liver.
you've seen me drink 2 of these so far. So I'm just getting warmed up. The filter
Nice.
comes off as I drink more, and
Right.
man, ask me whatever you want to ask me, dude. I'm gonna be honest truth on everything.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I just I love this. I really I really appreciate anybody that says, "Hey, Al, come on and talk." And honestly, the primary enjoyment I get out of it is just talking to people. The podcast itself and everything is really just a vehicle for me to get to chat. So I just enjoy it.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. How'd you did you end up finding me through the other podcast?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that was the first time you ever heard anything.
Yeah, I actually went to message you, and I was like, "Oh, he already follows the account." That's good. I guess that's a good sign.
Yeah, my buddy T-Rex Shenanigans, Glowing Eye Philosophy. He was talking about you maybe, I don't know, 3-4 weeks ago. About then,
that
roughly.
Makes sense. Yeah,
yeah, and I was like, oh, let me check that out.
Yeah. I actually recorded with him, and his episode will drop before this one, which is going to be in a while. I ran out of guests because I was doing a weekly release. Mm-hmm. This is kind of inside baseball, but maybe the listener will appreciate it. I ran out of guests, and I also was just like super busy in life and didn't have time to pursue it. So now I'm like, you know what? If I get a backlog of guests, that's fine. So I'm doing an every other week release. And worst case scenario, I get a big backlog and can go back to weekly. But it's just this tempo is a lot better.
Yeah, allows you to at least keep content.
Yeah.
We I think we're going to end up starting a podcast here soon for Future Conflicts. But my wife's got a pretty good idea for a podcast for me, and it's just I don't want to say it over the air, but it's whiskey with my last name, and it's just me rambling over whiskey, talking about whatever with whoever I have on.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
But, I mean, it's going to pertain towards military stuff, but and training stuff, but it would be like, oh, fuck you if you carry with an open chamber, or rather,
thank you,
chamber, and it'll be shit like that. It's basically just vocal shit posting.
Right. The things that need to be said.
Yeah, just trying to trigger anybody I can, including myself.
Yeah. What's life without a little triggering? Yeah. Some low order triggering can provide for some excitement.
You gotta have fun and laugh at yourself, man. That's where my name came from. Ghost Element was me trolling the community with my name.
Oh yeah,
and it just stuck.
That's
People started calling me, and I was like, "Oh, I guess it's staying." I don't know. Like, okay,
nice.
So before anybody messages him and says Ghost Element, that's such a cringe name, or whatever, just know I'm trolling myself, people.
Right.
Yeah, I'll laugh at myself with you.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's I like the idea for the podcast, though. It's a bummer that it wasn't. I mean, all 12 of my listeners might not go listen to it anyways, but at least they could. Now they know. They can look for whiskey with blank.
Yeah, and, if you just follow the Lost Generation Appalachia page, I'm gonna spell it out for you. So it's Lost Generation Appalachia, but it's Appalachia with just an I, not a IA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
it's good to know.
It's public. You'll find it on there whenever I post it or whenever I get time, because my current employer likes to run me around the clock and It hasn't even been 90 days employed by them yet, and they're already looking at my next promotion because they're like, "Oh, you can lead people without being an asshole." So we like you.
Right?
Yeah,
This is unique among men.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
like, great.
You know how to talk to people, but also how to be in control.
Right.
Weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. We need more of that society, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's true. To be able to command, like you were saying earlier, also to be open to input from below. Like um it's not exactly leadership if it's not an option.
yeah.
You
If
know,
if if you're not given an option on how you want to do it, it's not free choice, right?
right.
So naturally, people would be more repelled against doing it. So that's where you get your people in the military, especially, but I also see in the civilian workforce that just don't want to be there, and that's where it stems from. I think,
Mm.
and between that and not having a purpose,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So like think about it this way: in most people's civilian jobs, they probably don't feel like they have a purpose, and that's what makes them not really want to stay there, right? They're not actually doing anything that matters to them or
Mm.
or to society.
Sure.
Uh, that's why you see like EMT personnel and hospital personnel that absolutely work around the clock but still stay there, even though they're just mentally shot. You
Right.
know, they still know that hey, I have to be here, otherwise people could die, right?
Right. Right.
Um, and it's why you see people in the military too that stay there even though they're miserable, I guess, but because there's a conflict going on.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but it I think on the military side, when you have people who don't have a purpose and they're just sitting stagnant, that's when you really see it the most. It's easier, it happens quicker, I think, because you go from like, hey, we're doing training this week, with the platoon or the company, and we're doing these live fires and these bounding drills and this mission and this and that. You go from that to like, oh, COVID's been going on for 2 years. Let's go run a vaccine site, even though you're infantry. You know what I mean? You get that. Um,
Right.
so like that's a lot of times now you're not serving a real purpose to your like
To
I
your
feel like
mission. Yeah.
yeah
Yeah.
that's not your mission, right? It's a medical mission, it's not you. So it's you know um so you get that, but
Hmm.
it comes back to the weak men and weak leadership. I say weak men and not weak men and women because at least in the military there's not as many women leaders, right?
Mm. Oh, sure.
So and for whatever reason, I mean, I don't know. I can't really say this because I never really had a woman leader, so I can't really decipher the difference or what it would be like. But weak men is a real problem, real problem.
Mm.
Not just in the military, but in society as well. Just uh, men who just follow whatever narrative and are told what to think and think it
Mm.
because they're
Sure.
told to think it. It's a big problem. I think it's kind of steering our country in a way.
Hmm. Yeah, I tend to think, and I know you're not saying this. I tend to think it's not a new problem, but maybe a problem that's growing more common.
Yes,
You
it's
know,
getting
I mean,
more amplified.
yeah, you've always
Yeah.
had, men that are just like, well, tell me what to do. And that can be useful to a certain extent. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, when you're trying to develop leaders out of yes men,
Yep.
that's a great bureaucracy, but not good for leadership.
Yeah, it's horrible. And I mean, you listen to Pat, so like all about the bureaucracy stuff, and
Yeah.
uh, it sucks, man. It affects everybody around you. I mean, I got family members I flat out don't talk to and haven't talked to in years because they're just everything the news tells them they believe, and they're just so focused on that. I'm like, all right, look, you're occupied vessel. You're not a human. You're just a human tape recorder that spits out whatever it's recorded or told. So, um, I just don't associate with them anymore. I don't want them around my kid or my
Hmm.
family. My
Yeah.
kid will never know them, and it's because of stuff like that. I don't like the spread of it, and you're just seeing it so much more now. I mean, there's a lot more things we can get into depending on how deep you want to dive on what's causing that. Uh, a lot of it's testosterone levels today and what we're eating and all that good stuff, but
or not so good stuff,
or not so good stuff.
Yeah, no, that's I've heard that. I mean, I'm not I don't really track it that closely, but I've heard that like it's a historical low.
Yeah, this talking about this right here is how I get this is how I get a, how do I want to say this, FBI influenced shooter with a Daniel Defense AR to show up to my training courses and accidental discharge into me. This is how this happens, by the way. So if it happens
Right.
after, just know it's because of this podcast.
even if it's before it's released, it'll somehow be my fault.
Yeah, it'll be your fault. Yeah. But yeah, it's happening more and more, and we're seeing it more. You can see it mentally, but you can see it in certain energy levels with people now, and you see with how people think. They're not thinking as freely, and they're not nearly as self sufficient, obviously. So, yeah, I don't know where else to go with that, but it's not good. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's, and if you think about and this isn't as much of a comparison as or a more of an observation than a comparison, but if you think about like Soviet Russia or North Korea, for example, where even if someone thinks something that is a little dissenting or something, they're not going to say it out loud. And we're kind of coming to that point. There's still, and I'm not exaggerating it, there is still plenty of opportunity, like you're saying, you can trigger people on the internet or just, have fun doing whatever you want. But it does feel to a certain extent like it's getting closer to that.
Yeah.
At least that's the impression, even if not the reality.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we are. But it does sometimes feel like it's faster than it maybe actually is. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you see tons of memes these days and stuff online about like, hey, it's gonna get worse before it gets better. I mean, I think it could go either way, but in order to get better, it has to get worse because people won't wake up until it gets worse, right? Until it goes too far, people won't wake up to what's going on.
Sure.
So it's got to get worse. That just makes sense. Right now, I think the reason it's not getting worse is because we're kind of in political limbo, and it's purposely not getting worse because they don't want it to get worse because they don't want people to see what's up or experience what's up. So, I don't know. I mean, I think what I think, but there certain leadership in certain places in this country are pretty damn retarded, but it's not really them leading; it's other people. So,
sure.
You can say like the easy argument is, hey, they no way, they're too retarded. They can't do that because they're not capable of it. Well, sure, but look at who's writing whose script,
right?
And so I like to argue that hey, some people aren't that stupid, and some people are fueled by money and control,
right?
And it's possible. So I don't know. I mean, I could go either way on it. People can call me stupid, and I'll probably agree with them. But
right? Aren't we all?
Yeah. We're all slightly retarded, whether we want to admit it or not.
Right. I think a willingness to admit it improves the situation. I'm not sure exactly where I was going with that, but if and like honestly, joking aside, like it really is. One of the most frustrating things is the inability to admit that you're wrong. When and I've been here. When I'm confronted with evidence that I'm wrong, and usually for personal reasons of pride, I don't want to admit it. And get nothing but mockery later on when I'm forced to admit, no, I was actually wrong, and I should have admitted it a long time ago. So similar. Well, that was kind of a rabbit trail, but similar to like if we're just joking around, we're like, hey, I could be retarded. It's like, yeah, at least you're open about it, and whoever you're talking to, it improves the exchange of ideas. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To be like, hey, I don't have all the answers. Maybe you are right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of value to that, I think.
Yeah, you gotta be able to admit it and own up to it when you're wrong. That way you can quickly realize, hey, no, actually they're right. Let's analyze that for a bit and think about it, right? I don't know, man. I mean, growing up like younger, yeah, I used to be I'm still hard headed, but I used to be hard headed to the point where you couldn't tell me I was wrong. And
Yep.
And really, my boys at my current unit, they changed me over the last couple of years, and we roast each other so hard, so often to where, if someone says something stupid, it's like someone calls them out. Oh, fuck, man, I am wrong. And
right.
We just roast each other for 10 minutes and we move on from it. And it's just a joke we tell later on. It's funny. But yeah, you there's a self-responsibility you have to say, hey, I'm wrong.
Right.
Let me learn from this.
Yeah.
I fucked up, and let's figure out what's right.
So, yeah. So is roasting the new bullying?
Oh yeah. I mean, we still bully too. I mean, it's
yeah, right. There is it's fun done properly, and it can be not harmful, and it's like exactly like you're saying, like it corrects things. It there can be it can be useful.
Yeah, I mean, in my personal belief, if at your point in life, no matter what age you are, if you cannot be constructively bullied or roasted, then you just can't generally handle life. You're just not capable of it, and you should reassess that.
Sure.
It's not killing you. No one's shooting you or making you sit there or torturing you, right? So have a laugh, and just if you just literally look at them and say, hey, I'm pretty retarded, and you're arguing with me.
who's the real retard here?
Yeah, congrats. You wasted 30 minutes of your life you're never going to get back.
Right.
You got to be able to laugh, man, and whatever. I mean, I could have someone that I absolutely hate walk up to me and say I'm retarded, and I would still agree with them. Yeah, I'm pretty retarded. Still don't like you, bro.
Right.
And still laugh with them. I mean, it's whatever.
Yeah.
Who cares? But you got to be able to enjoy it. But you got to be able to learn from it. I think it's a lot of what people are afraid of these days. And the funny thing is, I don't think that comes from the newer generation. I think it comes from the older generation. The newer generation is more so, as much as I don't like the newer generation, the newer generation is more so to laugh at something stupid and say, yeah, I was pretty stupid.
Sure.
Listen, in my experience, the older generation is the ones that are like, no, you will respect me, and this is the way it is. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, I hate everybody equally, though, so it doesn't matter.
a universal dislike.
Yeah, I mean, I don't discriminate. If I don't like you, I don't like you. I don't care who you are.
Right.
As simple as that. If you're the problem, you're the problem.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah.
Just like people that drive in the left lane at 55 miles an hour, you are the problem.
Oh my goodness. It's I'm curious to know the reason. Whenever I pass, I'm just like, maybe you got a reason, dude, but I don't know what it is.
It's pure selfishness, man. They might look at me and say, hey, you're an asshole for driving 80 miles an hour into 55. However, you're the person that has nowhere to get to important or in a timely manner.
Right.
Every second of my life, I exist to piss people like you off. So do yourself a favor and get out of my way and just move over. Simple as that.
Right. Yeah. Walk faster.
Yeah. Who's really being the issue here? Is it me just going about my life, or you just selfishly driving in the fast lane at 55 miles an hour?
Right.
Not wanting to move over. don't be mad when I pass you on the shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Also, don't be mad when you pursue me and I decide to pull over.
Play stupid game, something, something.
Yes. I'm not getting out. I'm waiting for you to get out first. We're gonna learn this lesson together.
Right. Maintain the element of surprise.
If I see you get out with a rifle, I might drive away. If I see you get out with a pistol, I might lose a back window.
Yeah.
Yeah. That goes back to you are your own protection. Be trained.
Yeah. No, that's true. And that really does tie into what you were saying about low team in is self-sufficiency, being self-reliant, not necessarily in the sense of I have to rely entirely on myself for everything. But if you know that you can, then that's going to make you more compassionate and more willing to help others and not a drag on those around you. I don't like the term society, but it kind of applies. If you're helpless, you're going to be a drain on those you love and those who care for you. But if you're self-sufficient, you're going to be able to give to those around you.
Exactly.
Which is quite the opposite.
Exactly. And if you're self-sufficient, you probably learned some lessons along the way, and you probably had some type of hardship during learning those lessons. So that's what makes you more humble and more appreciative, but you're not going to be a normal asshole. And that's why I say, like, for example, the people that you experience in the fast lane of 55 are the ones that are selfish, never really done anything, and don't really care about life, and they're just moseying along through life with no cares. Whereas the people that are more like, get the hell out of my way, I got things to do, I got life to live, they're usually the ones that have learned that hardship and are like, hey, man, you're just affecting everybody by what you're doing. We're trying to move out of people's way. You're staying people's way.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're exactly correct. Like in low T-men, you see a lack of self-reliance. And it's weird, man, because like now, if you go online, like especially on Facebook, there's different Facebook groups, different Instagram pages for like self-reliance and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of getting more popular now because people are kind of like realizing the issue, and they're like, oh, hey, I should probably be more self-sufficient.
Sure.
So it's kind of working out. It's kind of making like a bounce back, and it's serving a purpose essentially in society, and it's helping. So as much as I don't like that person driving slow in the fast lane and not moving out the way, it's also creating more people that are essentially not liking that way of life, right? I use that as like an example,
sure.
but like an analogy. But yeah, man, it's bouncing back in its own ways. I think I'd like to see it grow more and faster, but life. I think most people are like me, and they work a full-time job and a side job, and all that stuff right now because inflation. So
sure,
people can only do so much at any given time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the opportunities to learn are out there. You just gotta find the right people, find the right network.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So experience hardship, go through tough times, do difficult things. So what I'm hearing is join the Marines. Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh no, man. Have you ever had a Marine on here?
Dude, like proportionally, far more Marines have been on than in life.
Really?
You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, Marines love to talk, man. It's ridiculous.
Damn.
Yeah, I mean, I love them, everyone, but it's just like they are. It's really interesting the rates of people that have said yes after being asked. Marines are by far the most numerous. I don't know. Maybe it's just circles I move in. I have no idea.
Huh.
But yeah.
I always call. I'm gonna trigger a bunch of Marines right now. I always call the Marine Corps a cult.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
me and T-Rex. T-Rex was a Marine, so like
Okay,
me and
yeah.
him, me and him always talk all the time. He's like, dude, you're 1% right. This shit was a cult. Like that's why I got out. I'm like, bro, I'm glad you're
Yep.
not mad at me for saying that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you were mad at me, I would just call it a cult even more. So,
Yep.
but
Yeah.
yeah, it is like it's you're gonna get some pissed off followers here off this interview because they're gonna be like, he's National Guard and he's done so much of this training. There's no way he's done all this, and National Guard doesn't have SF and stuff like this. And it's like, bro, use Google, learn a little
Right.
bit.
Right.
I don't know how
Right.
many people I've been in conversations with that were like, were active duty back in the day or whatever. And they're like, guard units are trash. They're shit. I'm like, yeah, you're right for probably like 50% of them.
Sure.
But I could say the same thing for about 30% of the active duty.
Right. Right.
So here we are. And I'll shit on them with you. I don't care. You're coming to the wrong guy if you plan on upsetting me.
Right. Right. You can catch it and throw it right back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'll shit on that National Guard with you, bro.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
hilarious.
and that's true because even just from what you're saying, how there's some units where guys just hate their lives and others where guys are having a blast. They're really enjoying it. They've got a purpose. They've got a mission. And they've got a reason to be there. So
Yeah.
so for example, if they deploy, the typical situation, a line unit's out there and the guard shows up and they're like, great, the guard's here. There's some units that, yeah, they're absolute trash and are just going to cause problems for everybody. But there's some units that, aside from maybe some actual in the field experience, are good to go and just ready to rumble, So
Yeah.
there's a spectrum for sure.
It's a whole, it's a really big spectrum. And I mean, I've talked, I mean, my cousin's active duty. My cousin's been active duty since 2011. And he hated life for the first couple of years at Fort Drum. Then he got sent down to Fort Hood. Kind of hated life still. And now he's a drill sergeant. And it's kind of okay for him, I guess. But, he's infantry as well. And he used to shit on me for going guard at first. And I'm like, bro, I'm with a long range surveillance unit. You haven't done a combat tour yet. And neither have I, but you haven't done a combat tour yet. And I've already been to more schools than you ever have been.
Right.
And still to this day in the Guard, I've been to military less than him, and I've been to way more schools. I've been Mountain Warfare School. I've actually been to the full scope Sears course, CRC. I've been to many things that he hasn't had a chance to go to, and neither have any of my active duty friends had a chance to go to.
Sure.
So it's like, man, I 100% get it. That spectrum on the Guard side is large. You're going to be at one end, in the middle, or the other. Like,
yep.
But it goes to say the same thing for active duty. The guy who got me to go to a SEER school wasn't one of my active duty friends, and he was with a sniper section as a sniper team leader. And then he took a gig at the SEER schoolhouse to teach on the evasive side. And he's the one that was like, hey man, we keep getting like special operations through here, and then we get like pilots through here. It's a mix. We'd love to have some 11 Bravos from like a reconnaissance asset down here because you guys know land nav, you guys know route planning, you guys know how to E&E already.
Sure.
You'll greatly help us get students through and whatnot. So we'd like to have you guys down here. And I had his commander write a memo, and then my commander accept a memo and say, hey, we can now go. So we send anybody who wants to go from our section. And
sure.
It's shit like that where I'm like, man, networking is everything. And on active duty, it's just so much harder to do for these guys, it seems like. Or maybe, I mean,
interesting. When it's their full-time job,
yeah,
and your weekend job, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, and once again, I think that goes back to civilian experience. I think in the Guard, you get those civilian leaders or civilian experience and leaders where they're like, hey, yeah, networking is a thing because I've been to this job fair or this conference call or this meeting, and I've networked in my civilian career, so why can't I network here? You know what I mean? It's
right.
It's got its pluses. It's definitely good
crossover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're I'd say we're pretty effective. We would be pretty effective in a combat environment with our guys. You know, we've been through. We go to things like JRTC, like in Hohenfels, Germany. We've been there before. We're pretty effective there. I mean, I know it's just a game; it's a war game, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not combat. It might
Sure.
not be the tactics that you're fighting against that day or that year or that in that conflict, but we work together great, and we're very effective because of that. So,
Mm.
I mean, we can tell we've been together long enough to where I can take any guy from any one of my teams and put them on that other team, and they already know how they work, how to talk to those guys, and how to work with them. So it's like it's too easy. We can jump in and fill any role, any aspect, because we work well together.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's the type of environment you get when you create a welcoming team environment, and it's hard to find these days. It seems like
Hmm.
whether you're on the military side or civilian side.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, that's true. I think maybe it's a combination of all the things we've been talking about. Just the weak men, unwillingness to take responsibility. Kind of all those compound to make an undesirable work environment. You don't have a lot of purpose. You don't have a mission. Maybe you feel like you don't have an option. You're trapped or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, now I don't know. From everything I've been hearing around the country, if you want work, you can find it.
yeah,
So, I mean, for what it's worth, if you feel like you're trapped in a position or a situation, there's probably another option out there or five.
yeah. Especially right now, man. I mean, well, I'm not looking for another job because I mean, I worked for the state before. On the civilian side. I worked for the state, and I was told that I haven't promoted to management in the last 2 or 3 years because I'm in the military. So
Mm.
I was like, oh, that's weird. That's a violation of USERRA, which is a federal and state law. But I'll look past that. And then I was asked, hey, what amount of money would keep you here more often? I was like, oh, it's another violation. Weird, but okay. Got into it real bad with upper management. Had one of my buddies break it up. And keep in mind, before this, I had been in a fist fight with a supervisor like 4 years before, and
Nice.
it was very warranted, very very warranted. His choice, 100%, not mine. Um, but so I kind of had I guess like a stigma about me or a rumor about me. Like I would have no problem throwing hands. But I also
Sure.
like if you want to talk, I'll talk. I don't care. It's just know how far you're taking it when you talk to me. It's uh, but when I left there without any. I put in my 2 weeks without anywhere to go, and
Mm.
I had a job within a day of leaving there, and they made a position for me based off my resume, and put me right into management.
Oh wow.
So I'm like, dude, there's jobs out there, there's work out there. You just have to market yourself,
Right. Right.
and you got to be willing to work. That's simple as that. Right now, man, I think a lot of people are just, at least on the civilian side, a lot of people are tired of bad leadership, and they're tired of having to come to a place they don't want to be every day. So they're like, man, there's jobs in the market. I don't want to work there, right? I don't want to work here anymore. I don't want to work there. So they have options. And I think it's what you're seeing across the board right now. People are also like, hey, I can do this job from home because I did it for home for the last year or two during COVID,
Mm.
so
Sure.
you're
Sure.
getting a lot of that too. So, which I agree. If you're able to effectively do your job from home, why do you have to come to work? You know, I'm with it. Or
Yep.
maybe why do you have to come to work every single day? You know what I mean?
Sure. Sure.
So, yeah, I mean, whatever. I'm with it. I agree. I mean, my job right now, I could do from home every day, but I wouldn't want to be home every day. You know what I mean?
Mm. Sure.
So
Yeah.
1 or 2 days wouldn't be bad. Like on a Monday and a Friday, it wouldn't be bad. But I have no problem coming into an office.
Yeah.
I like who I work with, and the ones I don't like working with, there's two of them right now, and everybody doesn't like them, and It's not just me, and it's why they've lost employees before. So I'm just effectively trolling them to the point where I'm just trying to make them quit. So there's that.
Yeah. Take it or jump.
Yeah.
Improve yourself or leave.
Yeah. It's two bitty old women, and they're very famous for backstabbing employees and trying to get them fired. So I effectively they're kind of lateral to me, but I've learned how to do their jobs. In my first 3 weeks there, I learned how to do their jobs, and we're a couple months down the road now. And I let management know, hey, I know how to do their jobs. I went through the people under them and learned how to do their jobs. I know what their jobs are. I know how to do them more effective than them, and I've showed it. We don't need them. Let's replace them. So now they just hired one person to replace one of them, even though they don't know it yet. I'm training them to replace them, and we got another one on the way to start next week. So be the change you want to see.
No, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, you got to be a team player, but you got to be either a follower or a leader or both at the same time. And you just got to know how to talk to people and handle people, but also lead or get out of the way, you know?
Yeah. Yep. Lead, follow, or get out of the way. That's a lot of benefit there.
Yeah. Yeah. Be what you want to see. And if you can't be it, accept that someone else can be and follow the correct way. And maybe mentor them as, to be a leader. Be communicative. Communication's key.
Sweet.
Yeah. My wife tells me all the time I don't communicate, and I beg to differ. I'm like, that's bullshit. When I'm upset, you know it, don't you? Yes. Okay. Well, I'm communicating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my leadership, at least in the military, my leadership knows I'm not happy. They know it. So I effectively communicated it. You know it. Let's change this. Let's work together.
Yeah.
But yeah. I don't know how much recording time you got on this, man. How much time can you record on this device?
I've never maxed out.
What?
I think it's got like 10 hours. I think you can do like 10 hours or something. Yeah.
I
have no idea.
Is that like a plan you have, or?
No, it's free.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you edit? Can you edit on here too?
I think you can edit within it. Yes. I don't, but there's some editing tools that might not be free. I'm not sure about that.
Dude, I might be using this for my new podcast.
Yeah, I love it. It works great for me. People use Zoom or StreamYard or whatever, but this one works just fantastic.
I like the little voice things on the bottom, and I like the video. So,
yeah,
huh?
And the free version allows you to have up to 10 participants.
Really, that is not bad.
And you can record video. You can record low quality video for free, but to get higher quality, I think you have to pay a subscription.
Still not bad. But that's pretty cool.
Yeah. This is audio only, so I don't need to pay for anything. I'm cheap. I'm cheap, baby.
God, man. I'm trying to think of some funny stories to tell you about the Army.
Well, here, I'm eager to go on, but I really got to take a leak like nobody's business. So I'm gonna pause it if you don't mind.
Dude, so do I. I'll be back in 2 minutes.
Okay, sounds good. All right, and we're back. I'll edit that somehow.
All right. Dude. I was trying to think of a funny story to tell you, but I got one. So I got a buddy I started with him at Long Range Surveillance, and he ended up being at my Scout Sniper section with me for a couple of years. We were in Germany at JRTC over in Hohenfels, Germany.
Okay.
And we were just being general hooligans there. We were a plussed up scout recon team. So instead of being like 5 or 6 of us, it was like 8 of us. and we got attached to one of our line unit companies that was going over there for training for like 3 weeks. We're over there with all these other nations and whatnot, and the 173rd Airborne was there, but they were on Blue Force and we were on Op 4, and we're working as a recon asset in the team, and we inserted via Lakota helicopter, which I don't know if you've ever seen a Lakota, but they're small little helicopters,
Okay.
like a sliding door on the side. You can fit like 4 people in the back, maybe. We managed to wedge like 5 or 6 of us in there with full rucks to live out of for a week.
Oh wow!
And we're sitting on the rucks instead of on the seats.
Right.
No seat belts, no nothing. And this pilot is just yanking and banking through the valleys below the tree line. Just we're doing a bunch of false insertions so that they don't know where we actually dropped at.
Right.
Because the Germans had like a full like sniper freaking battalion out. Dude, they said they had a sniper every mile across that phase line.
Oh wow!
Across like the what would be like the DMZ, like the friendly Op 4 whatever line, the division line. And they were riding around little ATVs. So like you'd see like you'd find like a little ATV like gilly netted up in the woods, like sniper somewhere nearby. But we're inserting to this mission via Lakota, and it's like snowfall, like it's like early spring, late winter in Germany, and snow's falling, and we're freezing our asses off. And I think I saw more ground through the side window than I ever saw tree line or air. And we. Like, dude, I don't know if you noticed or not, but they have massive stag herds over there. Like, their stag, massive antlers, just huge herds. And their boars are the size of our freaking Humvees.
Wow.
We saw plenty of them from the tree line. I'd never seen a pig so big. I didn't know that was a thing. I mean, I've seen farm pigs over here. I grew up on a farm. I grew up in 230 acres. And I've never seen a pig that big. And we're doing all these false insertions. We finally get to our insertion point, and we get off this helicopter, and we push out, lay down. He takes off. Like, it was just as quick as the false insertions were. So, like, the second he touched down, we're throwing rucks off and hopping off, and he's picking back up again, right? So he takes off, and we hear this whirling noise coming from a distance, like this loud roaring, and we're like, "What the fuck is that?" And we beat feet for the tree line, right? It's like right before sunup. And turns out U.S. Army over there has a Russian Hind as a training tool. And I don't know why they were using it on Blue Force, because we were Op 4. That's something you probably would have wanted to see on Op 4, but Blue Force was using it at the time for whatever reason. And our Lakota just took off. Even harder than we were already charging. They took off after they dropped us off when they heard it coming. And
no more false insertions. They're out of there.
Dude, they are gone. And they were just whipping down through we could see clear down the valley, and it had a bunch of twists in it. And they were just whipping down through it. And that Russian Hind is so big, it had to stay above the tree line for the most part. And it's just kind of like, it's like kind of just cruising, chasing them. And we're like, oh my God, that's fucking awesome. And we make it into the woods, and we're like, all right, let's get a feel for the area. So 3 or 4 of us, me being one of them. At the time, this is years ago. At the time, I was a senior scout on that team, so I was in charge of all of our route planning and getting us there, getting us back out, our E&E plan, all that shit. And it was me, my team leader at the time, and two other guys. We bump over this hill that we were on, this little mountain, and we're like, fuck, man. That's because 173rd Airborne was on the Blue Force side. And we're like, fuck, man, that's a 173rd machine gun nest. Like 80 yards from us. We're elevated up higher than them, up on top of the hill. And our team's just on the opposite side of the hill from them. And we tried, we got their grid. It was only 2 of them in there. We could have taken them, but it was early in the mission, and we didn't want to be discovered yet. So we attempted to call for fire on them, and we were denied. So we bumped back over the hill, and we're like, all right, whatever. We get our guys together, and we start beating feet. Well, dude, going into nighttime, we had no moonlight at all. No illumination for our night vision. Because with night vision, you still need some kind of illumination, right? There was no moon. It was so cloudy. So we're going through these woods we've never been in our life, and it's like constantly up and down, like just steep inclines. And we're like scrambling up this hill, like climbing on top of each other, trying to make it up it. We get up it finally after like half an hour, and a bunch of us had been to mountain warfare school before. We're like, fuck, we didn't bring any ropes, we didn't bring anything, like we didn't expect this, and
You're handing it up this slope.
oh my god, it was like cold, muddy dirt you're grabbing into. It's just you're cold already, and we get up it, and it kind of levels out, and we're walking, and one of my buddies was walking point, and I was right behind him, and we're just all disgruntled at that point. And all I see is through my night vision is him just walk off this kind of like cliff that we couldn't see. Really, it's not like a cliff; it's like a complete drop off into like a dirt road.
Okay,
And
sure.
but it's like a good 5-6 foot drop.
Yeah, like a cut bank or something.
Yeah, and all I see is my nods, and my nods. All I see is his feet go up. I see his head go down, his feet go up, and I'm like, I'm laughing so hard, I'm on the ground crying because I can hear him bitching and moaning on the other side.
Right,
So
you know he's live.
I'm crawling to him, laughing on flat ground. One of the guys comes running past me because he couldn't really see what happened, so he thinks there's an actual emergency. He comes running past me over to him, and he's sitting there like just bitching and crying, "Fuck this, fuck that," and madder than hell. And I'm laughing. Like the first two of us are just laughing so hard, dude. We're like, "Oh my god, that's the funniest shit I've ever seen." And dude, it was wild. We ended up we ended up being seen on our insertion apparently from a German sniper team. They just couldn't identify whether we were enemy or friendly.
Ah, okay.
So they didn't fire on us because we were all running Alice gear and whatnot. So they could have fired on us and essentially killed us, right? So
right.
So we were able to beat feet before they get positive identification on us apparently during the insert. But yeah, man, it was fucking hilarious. We got in contact with 173rd Airborne Machine Gun Team, like 60 yards away from us at one point. And during the middle of the firefight, we're all online, all like 8 or 10 of us. And my PL and the team leader's calling, like, "Hey, break contact. And it's a machine gun team, like a machine gunner and an AG on the ground, but there's a Humvee with 4 guys in it with 1 gunner, like like a little bit behind them in a brush. And we're like, fuck. So we're all online, like laying flat on the ground behind some kind of cover, and we're going to break contact. And we use like an Australian peel as our break contact method.
Okay.
So it's like very rapid, very fast, but spot's still laying down fire. But before we got up, I plotted that grid. We're only 50, 60 yards from that machine gun team. So I applied that grid on my Garmin GPS and my low wrist GPS, and we broke contact, got 1 terrain feature away over the hill. And I was like, "Hey, I got the grid. Let's call for fire."
Right.
Fucking call for fire. You hear like the dissemination mortars go off because the OC is standing over there. A cadre member's going, or umpire standing over there. And they're like, "Yeah, you effectively killed 5 soldiers in a Humvee, 4 guys, 1 machine gunner, and a machine gunner and AG on the ground." And we just did that for like 4 or 5 days straight before we got in contact with a Canadian recce team up on a hilltop we were trying to occupy. It was like right at sunup. We approached it like 2 days later, and they were already dug in with machine guns and everything. It was like 6 of them, and pretty much everybody killed each other.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah, and it was funny as hell, man. There's hilarious dudes, but yeah, man. The guys listening, my buddies that will listen to this, they'll recognize who I'm talking about. But the guy who went feet up first in night vision, like my night vision view.
Yeah.
We always had like this running bet. They're like, "Hey man, how do you think you're gonna die one day?" And he's like, "We're like, you're probably like the most voted to die in a strip club. Like that's just you." Sure shit, that motherfucker like 4 years later died outside a strip club.
No.
In a fight. Yep. It was crazy.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, apparently he bit the dude's finger off and was getting the better of him. And the guy was a pagan biker prospect, and he apparently stabbed him like 20 times. Like my buddy, he stabbed my buddy like 20 times, and eventually killed him. But yeah, apparently he was like whooping up on a guy pretty good for the video camera footage showed. But we're like, dude, that's fucking wild. You actually lived up to that.
Wow.
Like, that's crazy. Yeah, some dark humor for you.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's wild as shit. But yeah, wild times, wild people. That's why I say, man, every unit's different.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, some people go and they just, do paperwork or whatever. It's not one great big conglomerate. There's a bunch of different aspects to it. Huh.
There's so many different personalities and so many different jobs. Like, have on this podcast, have you ever gotten a, I guess like an admin type or a what we'd call like a pogue, like a other than combat arms?
Oh yeah, majority pogues for sure.
Really?
Yeah, that is something I've found. Maybe not majority. I think majority. I don't really keep like data on it, but that's my impression is that the majority of them are pogues. I find that the most likely people to say no are like people who have actually been in the midst of it, or somebody who did 4 years or less and doesn't even really, they're like, it wasn't even really a factor. I don't know what I would say,
Yeah.
Wouldn't have anything to talk about. So yeah, it seems that the closer people are to like the really cool job that everybody thinks that's all the military is, the less likely they want to come and chat. So, which I respect that. But and I kind of understand it as much as I can. But yeah, pogues are chatty types.
No, man, it makes sense. 100%. We got a few of our guys that have been on like smaller podcasts and stuff, like military oriented podcasts, and they've done much more to me in a combat role before they got to us.
Sure.
And they'll talk about it, but it's like in a sense, like same way I talk about it, it's like it's dark humor, like like some people won't be turned off to it, some people are okay with it, but it's kind of how you get through that stuff,
Yeah, I think that is kind of one thing that I think is not appreciated, not really understood by a lot of civilians is the intensity of what you go through, even not necessarily deploying or seeing combat, but just the situation you're in. Dark humor is a way to deal with it because it kind of I don't know. I'm speaking from outside, so I don't know obviously, but just kind of like isolate or deal with it or cope or whatever, however you want to term it. And from the outside, it can be really off-putting. It can just be like, wait, how can you joke about that? But it's a way of just dealing with it, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's 100% accurate, man. You get it. It's pretty accurate depiction of it. Pretty true. You'll see some guys that just don't want to talk about it, but then you'll see others that they'll dive deep in some dark humor. And they're funnier than fuck, but it's like, wait, this happened?
Right, exactly. Yeah, you're like, I can't believe it, but it did. And that's
it's funny as hell. But yeah, I listened to a couple of the episodes, and the one I'm listening to right now, I'm halfway through it, is the one with the cavalry guy.
Oh yeah.
Listen to that one right now.
Yeah, like, he the one he was in, like he was like up for himself, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was stationed.
Yeah, and then he fell off the LAV or the whatever Bradley whatever he was on. Yeah.
Yeah, I was listening to that. I was like, yeah, me and you could probably be friends.
Yeah.
But most of what he said was pretty damn true. How the military is pretty good depiction. Yeah, man, it's wild. It's wild as fuck.
Yeah, but, I appreciate the feedback. It's nice to know that I'm not just shooting in the wind here, but kind of catching something maybe.
Yeah. No, you can edit this however you want to, man. Cut out whatever sections you want to. It's been a mess.
Yeah, it's definitely yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the most meta the show's ever been. So I don't
Oh
maybe people
God,
like it. I have no idea.
they might, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to be cocky, but apparently my other podcast episodes I've been on have been doing pretty well. So
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah, I appreciate you coming on for sure. It's like I said before, I really don't take it lightly. Like it
yeah,
is it's enjoyable and it's fun and everything, but not it's not just a given, you know.
yeah,
So when someone says yes, I'm like, that's awesome. So
yeah.
super cool.
It took me forever to get back to you about the shit. You didn't even respond to your email. So
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. No worries.
I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, I was like, this guy's gonna just forget about me.
Oh. Yeah,
Oh
I've
man,
got there's quite a few people, you know, and I'm lazy myself pursuing them back. You know, someone says, "Oh, sure, I'd be interested." And then I just leave it there. You know, I need to like actually get after people and but yeah. Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, honestly, like since we're meta, if anybody's listening, you know, if you pretty much anybody, I mean, I'll have you on. I mean, I've got a few things, but by and large, if you got a heartbeat, baby, you're here.
Oh man.
So
Oh, you know what you need to do? You need to start having people on, but being like, hey, you have to have one drink in you before you start this podcast. We need the truth.
the premise for your show.
Yeah, that's gonna be what mine is. Whiskey with friends. Oh
Yeah.
God, it's gonna be horrible,
Yeah.
but great at the same time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of How I Embraced the Suck. If you enjoyed the show, tell a friend. And as my Girl Scout den mother used to say, stay frosty.